Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cúilín Media. It is the preview show for this weekend's All-Ireland Football Championship and All-Ireland Hurling Championship games, and, of course, Ladies Football and Camogie as well. Joined by Liam White and Matthew Hurley. Brought to you as well by ATAC Sport. Make sure to check them out when you get a chance. Our championship coverage proudly sponsored by them. So, yeah, big shout-out to them as always. It's a big weekend, lads. There's so much on the line, obviously, in the Hurling Championship, the start of the All-Ireland Football Championship as well, in terms of the new structure and everything else that goes with it. You've got some big games in the Táilteann Cup as well, and this is actually the first weekend as well where some teams will have been gone out of the championship completely in both hurling and in football when you look at the Táilteann Cup as well. And then, yeah, we do have some very interesting games across both ladies football and camogie as well. Liam, I'll come to you first of all. I know you're in good spirits at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a great 48 hours, I can't lie. Groupie has my heart for life. Bournemouth have my heart for life. I'll probably be supporting them next season as my second team, not until they beat us or something like that. But this could turn out to be the best week of my life if we can get the job done on Sunday, and if we can get a little favour off the Dubs as well against Kilkenny, then no week will ever top it, to be honest with you. But looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting into the action. I mean, when you line up some of the games this weekend, you have Dublin, Kilkenny, Cork and Clare, Limerick Tip, Kerry and Donegal, Cork, Meath. Like, there's just some absolutely savage games to look forward to this weekend. So yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Absolutely. And Matthew, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm sure all good. The Cork Miners winning on Monday night was absolutely brilliant in terms of the videos that went up at the Southern Stars page and stuff like that as well. And obviously the win over Kerry is brilliant to see. In any grade, whatever it is. Obviously the seniors was disappointing. The under-20s was close, but we beat them in the minor, so that was positive in many ways. And Keith Rickard's such a brilliant speaker, to be fair. Brilliant guy to interview. So yeah, it was all good on that kind of perspective. And looking forward to the weekend's games. Like Cork Meath in particular on Saturday is a game I'd be going to, and hopefully they can get over the line again against Meath and again in Páirc Uí Rinn. Considering the minors winning on Monday night, that might give the seniors a bit of confidence. John Cleary has said that previously as well. So yeah, hopefully we will get that at the weekend, and yeah, looking forward to the action.
Absolutely, yeah. Peter and Ryan, Brendan, Sean as well, all leading the charge in the comments. So shout out to the lads there as well, and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Brendan says here, even a lads football season is going to kick into gear this weekend, especially with Kerry and Donegal. Yeah, it's an absolutely cracking game there. Peter's asking here if I'm heading to Parnell. Absolutely, Peter, I will be there. Have the ticket and everything else. So it's an absolutely massive game. One of the biggest games for Dublin hurling, maybe since last week, since we beat Galway, maybe, but it does feel like there's so much significance on the line, but especially with the fact that we could eliminate Kilkenny as well. Sean has an interesting question here. Do you think Munster Hurling Championship, there should be 4 teams that go through, but 2 go to the final? Third place plays fourth in Leinster at home and vice versa, with fifth going out. I don't know, Sean. I like Munster the way it is. I think Munster is perfect. I know there has been a few people mentioning about Waterford, and I've seen a few articles and everything else that came out about them, but I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's cutthroat, and the reason why it's so good is because it's cutthroat. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is what makes it so interesting. But look, lads, we'll crack into the games, and we're kind of mentioning Dublin, Kilkenny, and we'll start off with the hurling games. And it is Dublin versus Kilkenny, Sunday 2 p.m. Parnell Park, RTE as well. Liam, you'll obviously have one eye on this game as well, with the fact that if Kilkenny are beaten, and you'd imagine, we'll get on to Offaly in a moment, you'd imagine they beat Kildare, then that'll be Offaly through to the All-Ireland quarterfinals, as it will be now. But I suppose, Liam, first of all, Dublin Kilkenny, I mean, it's from a Dublin perspective, first of all, it's a massive, massive game, because we have Kilkenny on the ropes, which is maybe a little bit worrying at the same time, but given our form against Galway, given Kilkenny's poor form as well, it feels like a massive opportunity here for Dublin and Parnell Park to finally get their first win against Kilkenny since 2013.
Yeah, I think if there's a time for Dublin to beat Kilkenny, it's this weekend, to be honest with you. Having seen Kilkenny in their championship games this year, obviously apart from the one against Kildare, which obviously wasn't televised, but even then seeing the scoreline at half-time. And you got to give credit to Kildare, first of all, because at the end of the day, Kildare are not a pushover. Kildare are a solid team. And look, it's a shame to a degree that they are getting relegated from the Leinster Championship. That's obviously a discussion for another day about restructure and everything like that. But regardless, you think of Kilkenny All-Ireland semi-finalists last year going up against a team that 2 years ago were playing Christy Ring. Kilkenny should be winning that game comfortably, and they were. But the fact they were only up by a point at half-time, I think that tells you at the moment that Kilkenny hurling is just not in the best shape, to be honest with you. Our senior team is not in the best shape at the moment. The draw with Offaly, the chances they missed on that day, their performances against Galway this season already. And look, they got a great win against Wexford, but as we've seen over the course of this season, Wexford are in no great shape themselves this year. They've had a very, very poor campaign. So Dublin, on the other hand, I mean, look, they got the draw against Offaly in the opening day, which for me was an absolute cracking game. And look, they could see that game from both angles. They probably threw it away to a degree, conceding the 4 goals, but they also did remarkably well, and in my opinion showed a lot of great determination to get the draw in the end with Donald Burke's point at the end. To go down to Wexford and win the game, I would say rather casually shows how far Dublin have come over the last number of years. To go down to a tricky ground like Wexford Park and get a win just without much of a fuss, I think was really well done by them, getting the win against Kildare comprehensively. But then to go to Galway, the way Hayes just finished that goal last weekend when he could easily have just tapped the ball over the bar was absolutely magnificent, and it showed how far Dublin have come over the last number of years. Again, 2 wins in 3 years in Pearse Stadium against Galway is nothing short of absolutely incredible. Neil O'Callaghan is doing a really good job with this Dublin side. I like their team. I like the way that they go about their business. Donald Burke's one of the best hurlers in the country. Brian Hayes has been fantastic this season. Donoghue and Cork in the middle of the park, and Burke and all these guys are really solid. Heatherton will cause you bother 9 times out of 10 when you go out onto the pitch as well. Obviously, they'll have no Hugh Lawler this weekend. Kilkenny's been a massive loss this weekend. So how will Mikey Carey be able to put up with the likes of a Heatherton this weekend? We'll just have to wait and see. Like, for me, Kilkenny have just been really poor in this championship. And if there is a time for Dublin to win in Parnell Park, even if it is, what, in my opinion, will be a very, very close encounter still, if there's ever a time for them to beat Kilkenny, it's now. Now, look, Adrian Mullen is back for Kilkenny. He's a massive, massive bonus to the panel. Kilkenny obviously got sent off the last day, but it was only a second yellow, so he'll obviously be available. TJ got back on the scoring trade last weekend with a couple of goals against Kildare as well. It's a huge, huge weekend. Like, for Kilkenny to be knocked out of the All-Ireland series before the Leinster Championship even ends would be absolutely remarkable. Like, I know a lot of us kind of predict, I think some of us, I can't remember which was, I think it might have been yourself, Matthew, that still predicted Kilkenny to reach the Leinster final, and they still easily could this weekend. I just felt going into the season they were not in the best shape, and it's not the same Kilkenny as we've seen over the years. And yet Dublin have a massive, massive opportunity this weekend. It's kind of staring them in the face. And Dublin do still need a result. I mean, look, obviously, I do want Dublin to win. Obviously, I'll absolutely not be supporting Kilkenny this weekend. I'll be singing up the Dubs from the time the ball's thrown in Connacht's Park as well. But, like, for me, if Dublin are ever going to beat Kilkenny, it has to be this season. And they've got a great chance of doing it.
Yeah, Peter was saying here, does Hedgehow start? I'd actually probably put him on the bench, to be honest. I think it worked quite well last week versus Galway. Like, I think with John Heatherton, like, it's one of them where if you start him when it's gone well, brilliant. But, like, if having him as a plan B, having him as an option that you can bring off the bench if things aren't going well is huge. So I was quite happy with the lads that started the last day. But, yeah, there could be maybe an argument in relation to that. Ryan says here, lads, I could see the Kilkenny Monster opening up this Sunday, but I'm pretty sure I said that versus Galway in round 1. I suppose that's the thing, Matthew. Like, when you look at Kilkenny, like, for myself as a Dublin fan, it's maybe a bit of PTSD with Kilkenny a little bit. Like, every time, I remember a couple of years ago going into that Leinster final, we thought we had a good chance, and then they absolutely hammered us. We thought we had a good chance in the round robin game that season in Parnell. Still believe we should have beaten them that day. There's been a couple of other occasions down the years as well where it's felt like we've had Kilkenny there to be beaten, and they've found a way to turn it up. And we do see this sometimes in the championship, even a bit like in football, maybe with Louth versus Dublin, where Dublin just have that phenomenal record versus Louth. And I feel like it's somewhat similar maybe here as well. So is that the worry maybe a little bit from a Dublin perspective, that Kilkenny, especially given the fact that they have to win, like even a draw here most likely will see them get knocked out?
I'd love Dublin to win this weekend, more so for Offaly, to be fair, for getting into the All-Ireland series. I've just this funny feeling Kilkenny will turn them over. I'm sorry, like, I just have this feeling because
just around the moon,
no, I just feel in the last few games, Dublin brilliant win over Galway. But at the same time, and you look at the performance against Wexford as well, Dublin only had 27 shots against Galway. Galway had 45. If Galway had 17 wides as well. If Galway's finishing was a lot better, especially in that first half, and that done, well, would you call it a Dahi Burke own goal? Well, let the fans decide. But yeah, if that goal doesn't go in, I don't think Dublin would get back into that game in the second half. I think Galway kind of threw it away last week. And Dublin were the better team against Wexford. But even look at the figures from that game. Dublin only had 39 shots. Wexford had 33. And let's be honest, that's a poor Wexford team. I don't think Dublin are motoring as good as people think they are. I'll just put it that way. Look at the figures in games, and will that come back to bite them later in the year? Unfortunately, from Dublin's point of view, it did last year against Cork, when Cork spanked 7 goals past them in Croke Park. And I think that has that same kind of vibe about it again. Like this is built up as, and rightly so, as Dublin's best chance to beat Kilkenny. It's at home. Dublin seem to be performing better. They're getting better results, and Kilkenny are just struggling in games. But this Kilkenny team, they have to have a kick about them. If Adrian Mullen's coming back into the team, if TJ Reid's on form, if Owen Coley's on form, and let's not forget against Kildare last week, okay, it's a Kildare team that went back down to the Joe McDonagh. But that was a game where Kilkenny went down to 14 men before half-time. Gene Kenny got sent off. And Kilkenny still absolutely blitzed Kildare in the second half. So is there an argument to say that Kilkenny are cranking up the gears right now and peaking form at the right time? The form book would tell you Dublin would win the game, considering like their league position, considering Kilkenny's ability to struggle in the league, considering Kilkenny's performances against Galway. Well, to be fair, against Wexford, they really put them away at ease, to be fair. Much similar to Dublin in many ways. But yeah, it's such a tight one to call. But like, I would love Dublin to win the game. I really would. But I think this Kilkenny team, there's going to be a kick about them. If there's not a kick about them this weekend, they may as well pack up and go home out of the championship, because like it's just not the Kilkenny of old to exit at this stage in the Leinster Championship. Like, it's unthinkable in many ways. It's almost like a sort of situation where you want to believe something to be true and then it doesn't happen. Like, a prime example would be the Premier League. You wanted Bournemouth to go into the Champions League. They're not going to go into the Champions League now because of Villa getting 4th place. So like it's just.
Well, you know, you beat Brentford Sunday. Villa let's be honest, go on the piss against City, get trounced. Then 6th place gets Champions League.
No, our camp is a toxic environment, Liam. don't sway that.
Have the faith.
But no, I just feel like this is sort of situation. Another big situation. You wanted Hearts to win the Scottish Premiership last weekend, and look what happened.
No, I didn't.
There's no point saying you wanted Arsenal to win the league either. I know you didn't.
But my point is, you want something to come through. You want Offaly to get over the line, or Kilkenny into the top 3 position. But then the favourites click. And I think this is a weekend where Kilkenny have to click.
Yeah, Ryan says here, Kilkenny 126, Dublin 28 points with a TJ winner there. So, yeah, not what we want to see. Peter here predicting an absolute cracker of a game here, 325 to 323. Yeah, that would be an absolute stormer there. Brendan says, as someone looking in from the outside when it comes to hurling, the Leinster Championship is lacking this year, and it's harming the hurling championship overall. Do you know what, Brendan? I'd actually, in previous years, I'd probably agree with you, but I actually think this year Leinster has actually been very good, like especially with Offaly. Like it feels like in previous years we've kind of had like a top 4, but with Offaly now kind of coming to the 4, it does feel like it's a little bit more mixed up and a little bit better than it was. The fact that Kilkenny aren't running away with it necessarily as well. But yeah, no, I do get your point at the same time. The Leinster Championship in previous years has definitely been quite disappointing. But yeah, in terms of prediction, Liam, what are we thinking?
Well, I never thought I'd see Arsenal win the league, and they did. And if you'd said to me at the start of the season, we'll often reach the All-Ireland quarterfinals, I was realistic. I said I think we'll get fourth, but in terms of reaching the All-Ireland quarterfinals, I don't see it happening. I think maybe it's a year, possibly 2 years too early. I'm not impressed with Kilkenny in the slightest. I know this is the Kilkenny team that you say, look, you can't write them off. You can't, and I know you simply can't, and I'm taking a big gamble doing this, but what I saw from Kilkenny against us. When you see them in person, it's very different when you see them on TV. When you see them in person, you almost gain a different sort of perspective. What I saw in person, not impressed in the slightest. I think Kilkenny I think they could be in trouble this weekend. Now, it's very typical. There's not going to be a hammering. Let's just get that out of them. Kilkenny are not going to get hammered in the Leinster Championship twice in the one season. It's not going to happen for me. I think it's going to be a very nervy ending. But you know what? I'm feeling in a what's the word? Fantasy, well, not fantasy. What's the word? Joyous, or I don't know what the word is, to be honest with you. But I'm feeling generous this week, and I think the big result is coming. I think Dublin are reaching the Leinster final, and I think Kilkenny are heading out. I'm going to go with Dublin to win this game, 224 to 125.
And Matthew, you're saying Kilkenny?
I'm going to say Kilkenny, yeah. I think Adrian Mullen coming back into the team is absolutely huge for them. And as well as that, if Dublin concede 45 shots like they did against Galway, Kilkenny will not make the same mistakes as Galway. They'll want to put scores on the scoreboard. And as well as that, it looks like it's going to be a decent day weather-wise as well, which could have been an excuse. Like Salt Hill is always wet, to be fair. It's always windy. But yeah, I feel like the weather will suit these Kilkenny players, and TJ would not want to. Like, you'd imagine this is TJ's last year. TJ would not want to go out in terms of going out in the round robin of the Leinster Championship as well. And like players like Paddy Deegan, Mikey Butler have to stand up in the back line as well. Cian Kenny, Jordan Malloy. And I feel like, even though I kind of don't want it to happen, I feel like this is the weekend where Kilkenny actually stand up this weekend, and I think they'll win it 225 to 127.
There we go. Peter was saying here, when was the last time Kilkenny were knocked out pre-All-Ireland series? Was it 2013?
Waterford knocked them out in 2017 before the quarterfinals.
Before the quarterfinals, yeah. There we go. Woody Island says, saying as a Limerick supporter and getting over the shock of losing to Dublin last year, good to see them pushing for silverware. Best of luck to them. The Cats aren't out of the bag yet either. But look, I have to cast and vote, and look, I'm going to back Dublin. Maybe there is a bit of bias there. I do agree with Matthew a little bit. I actually don't think we've actually seen the best version of Dublin yet. Like even against Wexford, I don't think we were particularly brilliant. And like 3-16 versus Galway, like 16 points versus Galway, you like on more occasions, more often than not, wouldn't be enough to win the game there. So it was a bit of an odd one, really. I don't even think it was Dublin's best performance, really, but I think in Parnell Park, with the majority of the crowd obviously behind us as well, I feel like we're going to do it. I feel like there is a bit more of a vulnerability about Kilkenny. I am worried that so often we've seen Kilkenny just turn it up against Dublin and find a way to beat us. But one thing is certain for Dublin is that we need to start the game fast, because so often when we've played Kilkenny, we go too far behind. We always do this thing where we're like 10, 15 points behind. We come back to like 1 or 2 points, but then they hang on to win. So hopefully this time around it will be a little bit different. But yeah, I'm going to back the Dubs to do it and knock Kilkenny out of the championship. Kildare versus Offaly, Liam. I'd imagine you're backing Offaly. I mean, we're probably all backing Offaly here, but what would be your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's not going to be simple. I mean, we'll put that straight away. Everybody kind of saying like it's a foregone conclusion, Offaly win this weekend. It's absolutely not. Galway put up a huge fight against Kilkenny last weekend, particularly in the first half. I mean, for me, I actually thought the shock was on against Galway at half-time, the fact that they were 10 points. So maybe if they had tagged on another goal or gotten another couple of points, we might have seen it. Maybe Galway's heads might have dropped at that point. But yeah, Kildare are a really good team. I like a lot of their players, the Sheridans, the Borans, Qualters, Keegans. Like, they have some really good players across their side. And like, I'll be honest with you, like, especially after seeing how they performed against Galway before we went into the Kilkenny game, I was sitting there going, geez, we could be in trouble going down to Connaughton Park if we don't get a couple of results here. So look, we are further down the line, and I think we are in a good position at the moment. And obviously we are fighting for something. Kildare aren't, so that might help a small bit as well. I think this is going to be a game that you could see Offaly like 3 points up at halftime, but then they might just about get a bit comfortable in the second half. Kildare might strike a late goal to make the scoreline look a bit more respectful. But I'm going to go with Offaly to win this game. It's not going to be simple. I think I've said in my preview on TikTok, I think I've said like 7 or is it 8 points off the top of my head, but I think we will win this game. I think we're just going to about get over the line. If O'Connell can have another big game, Ben Keneally, Killian Sampson, this is the weekend we need them all to really step up as well. Maurice Curtin as well. I see Peter mentioned in the comments as well. He's had a really good campaign, really nice fella as well. So he's going to be a massive threat to us as well. But yeah, I'm going to go with Offaly to win this game, but by no means necessary is this going to be simple. Kildare are going to put up a huge fight, and yeah, but I think they've done really well and they've warranted their place in Leinster this year. But I think we will get over the line and win.
Yeah, and I think that seems to be the consensus across the comments as well. And Peter does say, to be fair, Offaly are much further down the road in relation to that. Do we have any disagreements, Matthew, in relation to Offaly winning the game?
Like DC Rebels prediction, very very modern. I'll put it that way. But
7. Yeah, I don't know if I said that, but yeah, he caught me there. Yeah, fair play.
But no, in all seriousness, no, I think Offaly will win the game in the end. I do agree with Liam. Kildare will really put it up to them. They'd want to go to the Leinster Championship on a high. But yeah, I think Offaly will be too strong. Like, Offaly don't want to mess up a big opportunity as they have now. Well, obviously, it will be presented to them on a platter if Dublin do get the job done, but they don't want to screw this opportunity up. And I think they will get over the line against Kildare this weekend.
Yeah, we're going for 3 wins for Offaly. I do agree with Liam's point as well, though. It will be interesting to see, because Offaly are now the favourites as well. I could just see a scenario where this game becomes a lot more trickier than maybe we would have initially thought. And I could see a scenario maybe where Kildare actually do stick in this game for a little bit longer. And especially with it being their last game of the season as well. I can see them putting in a fight. Wexford versus Galway. Matthew, I'll go back to you first of all for this one. I mean, Wexford have nothing to play for. They can't get relegated. They obviously can't get out of Leinster as well. We have seen weird scenarios where Wexford sometimes on the final day often pull a big win sort of out of their pocket, but most often or not, there's been scenarios where they've actually had to win that game, whereas obviously they don't this weekend. And Galway, to be fair, they do need to win the game. So, like, is this straightforward enough? Is it going to be a comfortable win for Galway, or could you see a scenario where Wexford maybe, especially with a lot of rumours as well, I mean, that it could be Keith Rossiter's last game, but what are you thinking for it?
Could be a slippery game for Galway, this, considering I don't know the situation on Rory Burke's fitness. Aaron Nyland's injured. He didn't play in the under-20 during the week. I know Jason Rabbit played 30 minutes of the under-20 against Kilkenny, which I'm actually really, really against those sorts of players. They're brilliant players, but they should be allowed to play under-20, but that's a discussion for another day. But with Nyland missing, potentially Rory Burke as well, they didn't shoot the lights out against Dublin either. They are performing badly, but Wexford, I don't see any confidence in this Wexford team, and they don't need to win the game, as you said. So I think Galway will win the game, but I think it'll be stickier than people think, considering the players that are out for Galway. The sooner they get Nyland back, the better. And the same with Rory Burke as well, two of their top scorers so far in the championship. So they need those players back. I think they'll survive without them this weekend, but they badly need them back if they are to get to a Leinster final.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Peter says the underage teams have been leading the way well. Galway always struggling in Wexford Park. Yeah, I think they got beat there the last time out 2 years ago as well. DC Rebels definitely in good form here. Kilkenny out and Offaly in. Sweetest of the sweet. Only be topped if the Animals get beaten by Donegal their next day out. I don't know what that's in reference to be honest, but fair enough. What?
He's on fire tonight. We should get him on this.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Fair play. Heard Nyland's injury is a discipline issue, says Pierre here. Yeah, look, I'd say as well, I do fancy Galway to get over the line. And I do think it will be, I don't know, I just feel like with Wexford, I could see a scenario where going down the home stretch, Galway really lay it on Wexford, to be honest, and end up winning the game quite comfortably. But what are you thinking on this, Liam?
Yeah, I think Galway will win this game, to be honest with you. I think, look, Wexford, again, similar enough to Kilkenny, only on a much larger scale, have not impressed me at all this season. I was not impressed with them whatsoever. Well, look, maybe that's a bit harsh to say I wasn't impressed with them at all against us, because they did put up a decent enough fight, obviously, in the first half, and we're leading at half time. But I did say it in my match review. I felt that was more Offaly playing bad than Wexford playing good. to be honest with you. And I mean, in the second half, Wexford scored 1-3 against us, which just simply was not good enough, to be honest with you. They obviously had a bit more about them the last day without, say, Leachin being at his best than previous days. But again, you can just tell they're very, very heavily reliant on him. And look, they have some good players in their team. There's no doubt about it. And they have some proud players in their team. The Kevin Foley's, Leachin's, obviously Simon Donoghue's, who did really well, particularly in the first half last weekend. I think he was their top scorer at one stage last weekend, which was hilarious, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm just worried look, if Nyland's out, Rabbit obviously played a half an hour the other night, like you said. But like Galway need a performance as well, more than anything. Like they performed against Kilkenny, there's no doubt about it. But against us, it was a snooze fest. Against Kildare, they had to fight their lives to get that game back. Against Dublin, I didn't see much of the game, but from what I saw, Galway were extremely poor. And Dublin, it wasn't a great game, but Dublin still deserved to win the game ultimately. They cut them open at the right times and got the vital scores when they had to. And like Matthew said there, their shooting the last day was absolutely dreadful. Their shooting against us was actually probably worse, to be honest with you. And they're a team that need to get that right. And if they're going to get it right, they may as well do it by starting this weekend, reaching a Leinster final, doing it against a Wexford team that are on the beach, essentially. It's not a game that's going to matter to them too much in terms of the context of things, but obviously there'll be a bit of pride there. But Galway, for me, simply have to win this game. I think their shooting will be better this weekend. I know Wexford Park is a bit of a whore of a place, like Pierce Stadium with the wind and everything like that, but I think they're going to have to navigate and get it right this weekend. So I'm going to go with Galway to win this game by 7 points.
Yeah, moving on from that, then we have the big one in Munster, Cork versus Clare. And the scenario going into this weekend, we do know the three teams that are through: Cork, Limerick and Clare, but obviously the order in terms of who will be going through is to be determined. And there are certainly a number of different scenarios that could happen this weekend. And one of them is if Clare go and win this game against Cork by 4 points, and they will be going through to the Munster final. But obviously that will be dependent a little bit on how Limerick do versus Tipperary. Matthew, I'll come to you for this one. I mean, it's a bit of a few weeks ago, we thought this was going to be a bit of a dead rubber for Cork, but that absolutely is not the case anymore with how things have panned out. So it's probably a bit of an unusual one to win 3 games, but actually it not to be a dead rubber in some ways. But at the same time, the Cork are through. We do know that, and they could lose the game and still get to a Munster final. So it's probably a little bit more on the line for Clare. But what are we thinking in regards to how this goes?
Well, the maths is if we lose by 3 points, we're still in the Munster final regardless. So look, that's the bottom line out of this, and it's a funny kind of a game going into, because we've won 3 games. We got to a league final. It seems to be positive under Ben. It is positive under Ben. Like he's going pretty well at the moment. But there's negativity coming in, and obviously that's not our own fault. It's because of the injuries, simply put. Kieran Joyce obviously out for the whole season. Robert Downey's not going to be there either. Robbie O'Flynn is a colossal player to come off the bench. He's not there. And Dara Fitzgibbon, obviously, he had his appendix removed. Speaking from experience on that, I did get my appendix removed. But it was over 10 years ago now. But what it does affect is your fitness levels. Now, I'm not sure. No, I will stress this. I don't have the same fitness regime or the same training regime as Dara Fitzgibbon. I'll put it that way now. But it does tie with your fitness completely. That sort of illness, because you're in bed for quite a while. You can't play sport, I think, for a month. It's probably worse than people, like a lot of people talk about hamstrings, quads, whatever. That is a terrible injury to get midway through the championship. And I'd be concerned about not just when Dara does come back, but when he does come back, he won't have the same zest as he had in previous seasons, which he has been absolutely incredible. So that is a complete worry for Cork to have that, because he is an absolutely brilliant player for Cork as well. But it does offer an opportunity for the other guys in and around the panel. Barry Walsh, the under-20s are now out of the championship, so he has no other commitments. Shane Barrett, the opportunity for him to shine completely. Brian Hayes as well. Alan Connolly has done pretty well at the freeze, I would say, so far at full forward as well. The worries defensively with Joyce and with Joyce and Downey being out. Now, was Damien Callahan full back against Waterford? And to be fair, I think Damien did okay against Waterford. Can he sustain that for the whole season? I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. Owen Downey, I think, was playing centre back, but we have to do a bit of rejigging in the team because Tommy O'Connell was playing at 5, but now Fitzgibbon's out. We probably have to put Tommy O'Connell into midfield alongside Tim O'Mahony. So a lot of rejigging needed. A lot of new players coming in as well. A lot of players really have to stand up for Cork as well. I do fancy Clare to win the game this weekend, considering the form that they have brought from that game against Tipperary. Despite a few misses that they did have, they looked absolutely brilliant, Clare, last week. They looked, even Tony Kelly, Shane O'Donnell offered something. No concern for them is Mark Rogers. I'm not sure what the situation is. He went down with an injury against Tipperary and looked pretty bad. And I think he'd be a loss in terms of free taking. But Clare have a lot of young players that have really stood up. Dermot Stritch has been absolutely outstanding this season. Niall O'Farrell's been very good for centre back as well. And Sean Rena wing forward. Like, they do look very, very settled kind of a team, Clare, as well. Even understated heroes, the likes of Colin Malone and Ryan Taylor have done really well. They may not have scored a huge amount, but they have done pretty well as well. And the whole team seemed to be working really, really well. Okay, the Limerick game was an absolute blip, and I think we can all say that. Look, Clare have performed well throughout the whole season. That Limerick game, the question mark was, how could they bounce back in that game against Tipperary? And they bounced back exceptionally well, I have to say. So I think they will win the game this weekend because of Cork's injury crisis, because of maybe new players and new positions. Now, whether Clare will win by enough to get into a Munster final, I'm not sure. But I think Clare will win this weekend, but I'm not sure they'll win by a big enough margin.
Yeah, Liam, what are you thinking in regards to this? Like, Clare have been interesting this season. Obviously, like, very poor versus Limerick, beaten kind of out the gate. But obviously, last time out, they showed how good they were in terms of putting away Tipperary, and obviously what was a fairly enough, comfortable enough win. And having seen them close up in Division 2 as well, like even against ourselves, they've had, like, even in the game, they've had moments where you've been like, oh, that's vintage Clare, but they've also had moments where they've actually let ourselves in some of those games back into the match. And it feels like with Clare, like they've been very inconsistent at times this year, and you don't know what version you're going to get from them. And you feel like if they're on it in this game, obviously with there being more on the line and Cork's injuries, Clare could absolutely go and do it. And obviously they have the know-how of having beaten Cork, of course, 2 years ago in the All-Ireland final. So what are you expecting from Clare going into this?
I think it's going to be an extremely close game. I don't see much between these two sides. I do agree with what Matthew was saying. The injuries are massive for Cork, especially Downey, Joyce. Fitzgibbon, for me, is a massive, massive miss, to be honest with you, just in terms of his energy, the scores that he gets. I think he's a leader on the field. Like, if Cork are to go on and win in All-Ireland this year, for me, he'd probably be up there for Hurler of the Year, potentially, as well. He's been absolutely savage throughout the league and the championship. He's getting, 3, 4, 5 points from play every single game, possibly 6 even as well. You know, he's stepped up massively over the last number of years for Cork. So they are missing some massive players. And look, Clare, like you said, they were exceptional against Tipperary, but I will say Tipperary were equally as poor. It's never down to just one team. It's down to both teams. Tipperary were a shadow of what they were last year, which they kind of have been throughout the entirety of the season. You could probably forgive it in the league because the league is the league at the end of the day. But at the same time, if there's one thing the league can tell you to a degree is, right, what have they got out of it? And for me, Tip didn't get anything out of the league, to be honest with you. Like, you look at certain teams. Clare, obviously, look, I know Clare and Dublin would have preferred to have been in Division 1A, but even just that build-up of winning games and getting that bit of momentum, getting players back, and letting them get those crucial minutes under their belts was crucial for them in the league. Kilkenny were poor in the league, and it's reflective of them now in the championship. Galway brought a couple of lads in. They sharpened themselves up in the league, and look at them now. For me, they're going to be in a Leinster final after this weekend. Even Offaly, we lost all those games in the league, but I felt we came out of it going, okay, we've now breeded a lot of these lads. They've got used to the level. They now know what is required to get to that level. And for me, Tipperary in the league were just very meh. They weren't great against Galway the opening night. They got past us, which is fair enough. But then, I don't know, just even against Cork, they were poor. Against Waterford, they were very poor in that game up until, the last 20, 25 minutes. And again, the championship, they've just been really poor all season. So although Clare were excellent last weekend, I in a way don't really look at the Limerick game as a blip, because I also thought I also just think Clare are very, very poor at the back themselves. I still have question marks over their full back line, to be honest with you. I think it's a full back line that you can easily get at, and I think it's a full back line that the Cork forwards can easily get at, to be honest with you, if they're provided with the opportunities. And for me, I think Cork, like, it would be the thing for Cork to be missing all their lads and still go out and win this weekend. But I think Ben O'Connor has really assured that Cork team that no matter who comes in, they're defensively solid. He allows the players to go out and express themselves, go out and, play the type of hurling that they deem acceptable for Cork hurling, which is fast pace, attacking, never stop running, playing the ball out into the corners, into the likes of William Buckley, into Brian Hayes, Alan Connolly, all those kind of guys. I'm actually going to go with Cork to win this weekend. I think they'd love nothing more than to stop Clare from getting to a Munster final. And I think they're in a really good shape of Ben O'Connor at the moment. And yeah, I think they'll want to end this campaign. It is in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well, which I know they haven't had the best record against Clare to a degree over the last number of years, especially even in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. But I think that's going to end this weekend. I'm going to go Cork to win this game by 1 point.
Yeah, Peter says here as well, Clare chasing their first Munster title since 1998. And yeah, absolutely. Like, that's the thing. Like, it just feels like there is it probably does mean maybe a bit more for Clare to win this game than Cork, because obviously Cork did win the Munster Championship last season. But at the same time, I don't think Cork will necessarily want to relinquish that title, and they want to keep the momentum going and everything else. But Matthew, for yourself, in terms of a prediction?
I'm going to say Clare by 2 points. Obviously, Cork lose the game, but they still get into the Munster final.
Yeah, I'm going to sit on the dirty fence and go for a draw. I'm going to play my draw card here. I just have a feeling, do you know what it is? Like, Cork got a lot of criticism after the Waterford game, which I found a little bit unusual. Like, they still won the game. I feel like they'll want to right the wrongs a little bit. Some players will come in as well. And at the same time, I still think Clare as well, like, they'll have everything to play for in terms of getting back into it. So I think it's going to level out as a draw, which will be enough for Cork to go through there. Moving on from that one, then we do have Limerick versus Tipperary in the Gaelic grounds. Feels like a dead rubber, really, kind of. I mean, obviously it's not necessarily maybe for Limerick, but it is for Tipperary. Liam, I'll go to you on this one, but yeah, at the start of the season, I think we would have been very, very intrigued to see how the All-Ireland champions do go onto the Gaelic grounds in the final day of the Munster round robin. But Tipperary are gone, Tipperary are out. And it's crazy to think, but it feels like this game is only going one way.
Yeah, I was thinking that last weekend when I went down to Limerick Waterford, and then Waterford were at one stage 5 points up in the first half. And I thought, right, this is not what I was expecting. But then at the same time, Limerick played for the first 10 minutes and the final 15 minutes and still won by 9 points. So that just tells you how, like, they were able to take off Adam English after 20 minutes and bring on Cian Lynch. That's just not fair, to be honest with you. That's just completely unfair. Like, it's ridiculous. But look, Limerick were not brilliant last weekend, but at the same time, I think there was a lot more fight in Waterford than what there will be in Tipperary this weekend. Tip have just not been firing all season. Like I said, it is a dead rubber for them. Like, I just don't see them getting upset. Like, they'll obviously go down and put up maybe a small bit of a fight, but at the same time, they're not going to be able to sustain it, in my opinion. Limerick are hungry to get to a Munster final. They're hungry to end the Munster campaign in the best possible way they can. And for me, yeah, like, they should win this game rather comfortably. So yeah, I can't see anything but a comfortable enough win for Limerick this weekend.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Like, it's one of them maybe where you feel like there might be a bite back maybe from Tipperary final game and everything else. Remember with Clare, obviously, last season on the final day when they beat Limerick, I think it was. Now, the only difference was Limerick had nothing to play for in that game because they were through to the Munster final, from what I remember, and there's no way that could be overturned. Like, is it that kind of, clear-cut, Matthew, that Limerick are just going to win this game comfortably?
That's what I thought. I thought Limerick would win the game comfortably, but talking to a Limerick person actually today, and they're pretty nervous about the game because there's nothing more threatening than a wounded animal. Tipperary are, like, a lot of people would say that they've had a horrendous season or whatever. Their confidence must be on the floor now. What a way to go out and blaze of glory and shut them up and beat Limerick and prove what a good team they are. I think that has to be taken into account as well. Tipperary will not go down without a fight in this game. I think this game could go two ways. Look, I think number one, Limerick could absolutely hammer Tip, and Tip could just, down tools. Or number two, Tip would drive Limerick very, very close in this game and could nick it. Having said, I do think Limerick will get over the line eventually in this game. It'll probably be similar to the Waterford game last weekend, but I wouldn't be shocked if Tipperary come out and beat Limerick, considering a lot of people are saying they're one of the worst All-Ireland champions in history and things like that. A lot of people are questioning Liam Cahill's record in the Munster Championship during the week as well. That's kind of unfair considering he won the All-Ireland with Tipperary last season. So yeah, I'm sure he'd want his team to go out and blaze of glory and beat Limerick. But yeah, I think Limerick will win, but it won't be as clear-cut as maybe people perceive it to be.
Yeah, Peter was saying here, did you see the Premier Pod has come out against Cahill? I didn't see that, to be honest with you. But yeah, like I think for most Tipperary, like if Tipperary fans are coming out against Liam Cahill, like it does feel a little bit strange, in my opinion, to be going out against a manager who won an All-Ireland. Like it's an incredible achievement, and considering how he did it as well, where he took Tipperary from, you forget it is still such a young team as well. So no, if I was a Tipperary fan, I'd absolutely be still back in the management here. Brennan says it must be frustrating for Matthew after the All-Ireland final last year, seeing how poor they've been and how dominant Cork were in the first half. Yeah, I'd say it's definitely causing a few sleepless nights there for Matthew, I'm sure. To be fair, I didn't give Waterford a chance last week, but they gave Limerick a good game. They did, in fairness. But yeah, look, I am going to back Limerick to do it as well. I think 3 wins from 3. You would expect there to be a bite with Tipperary, but I've expected that all year, lads, to be honest, and we haven't seen it. I thought we'd see it last week. I thought we'd see it the week before. We just haven't seen it at all. And like I expected Tipperary to go out of Munster. I predicted that, but I did not predict it like this. I thought they'd actually be a little bit unlucky, or lose 1 or 2 games and go out and score difference. I didn't expect them to just lose almost every game other than that draw against Waterford. But yeah, no, I think Limerick at home as well should be far too strong there, in my opinion. We do have 3 games in the Joe McDonagh Cup. We have Antrim versus Carlow. We've Down versus Westmeath, and we do have London versus Laois as well. It is the final round of fixtures in the Joe McDonagh as well before the final, so obviously a lot on the line here. Liam, will come to you in regards to these 3 games, and if you can give us your predictions and what you think will happen.
Yeah, I think Laois should comfortably beat London in Ruislip, to be honest with you. London are a team that are improving, even though they're heading back down to the Christie Ring. But Laois, ever since that defeat to Carlow, they've been on a really good run of form. 2-23 against Antrim, 5-28 against Westmeath. It was a 4-28 against Down last weekend. Now they'll be a small bit nervous considering they conceded 2-19 against Westmeath and conceded 27 points against Down. But for me, they should wrap up their place in the Joe McDonagh final this weekend rather comfortably. So Laois to win that. I think Down are going to beat Westmeath. I think Westmeath just are in a bit of a transitional period at the moment. I think Kevin O'Brien is the right man for the job there, but Down have improved massively this season. Very unlucky not to beat Carlow there last weekend. Or 2 weekends ago, I should say. And look, they still got 27 points against Laois, which is very admirable as well. Got great wins against London, great win against Antrim. So I think they're going to bow out from the season with 3 wins out of 5 of their team. They're very much making progress. And I think Carlow are going to go up to Antrim and win. I think it's going to be the final nail in the coffin for Davy. I think it's going to be his last game in charge. And I think Carlow are going to go up there and win the game. Look, they don't need to. They're on the beach essentially for this game. They don't need to go up there and win. They're in the final already. But for me, I think they want to round off the season in good fashion. So I'm going to go Carlow to narrowly get the win, just because the game is up in Antrim will be a bit more difficult.
Yeah, Peter saying Laois for another cricket score and Carlow down Laois. Yeah, that appears to be the consensus there. Matthew, would you have any disagreements there?
No disagreements. No, I think Laois will win against London and get to the Joe McDonagh final, and then all the other results are pretty irrelevant. London relegated and Laois and Carlow in the final.
Yeah, and then we have a very interesting game here. Mayo versus New York in the semi-final of the Nickey Rackard Cup. Obviously, we saw what New York were able to do in the Laurie Mar last season, albeit quite controversially and everything else. But here they are now in the semi-finals in Cusack Park versus Mayo. I haven't really seen who's in the New York panel or anything like that, but Matthew, I'll give it over to you in terms of if you've heard anything, and obviously give us your prediction as well.
Rather comedically, this fixture has been rescheduled for Sunday, not Saturday. Obviously, before we went on, we knew this game was on Saturday, but the GA just posted their fixture change. The Nickey Rackard semi-final between Mayo and New York will now take place on Sunday, 24th of May at 2 o'clock in Glennon Brothers Pierce Park in Longford. The reason, because of cancellation of New York's flights from JFK last night.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Is the weather really bad in New York or something? What's going on there?
Yeah, geez, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's yeah, but one of the comments, actually, a guy called Joey the Moon actually commented on the GA's Twitter saying needs to find a neutral venue like the Aran Islands. Halfway through the Atlantic, possibly. I don't know. But yeah, in the water. But yeah, look, for this game, look, it's hard to know what New York have up their sleeve. Look, they haven't played competitive games, that goes without saying. Mayo have, and they played tough sides like Sligo in this Nickey Rackard campaign, played against Tyrone as well. And they also played in Division 2 in the National Hurling League as well. So you would think Mayo are well equipped in this semi-final. And I think they will win the game, actually. I'm going to go for Mayo to win the game. Maybe that's blindness because of the New York panel. We don't know who's on it, per se. But no, I'll be confident enough in Mayo, considering they played Division 2 hurling. They played in the Nickey Rackard final last year against Roscommon as well. They have enough in the bank to get over the line.
Yeah, Ryan saying here, maybe Iceland. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they can do that. Yeah, find a neutral venue somewhere. I think that's the next thing on the agenda there for the GEA. But yeah, I agree with you as well. You'd have to go with Mayo as well, just based off we don't know a huge amount about New York. I know Peter was saying there about Johnny Glynn. I've honestly no idea, to be honest, if he's involved or anything like that. I know he has been involved with the footballers, the hurlers. I'm not so sure, but yeah, you'd probably have to back Mayo here. Moving across to ladies football, then 2 provincial finals to preview. The first one is Kerry versus Waterford, and there's obviously a huge amount on the line here from a Waterford perspective. Obviously, Kerry have a big opportunity as well to silence some of the doubters and everything else. Matthew, I'll go back to yourself for this one. Huge opportunity for Waterford to taste silverware, but what are we expecting in regards to how Kerry do as well?
Yeah, Kerry were pretty impressive in that game at Fitzgerald Stadium against Cork, from what I've seen anyway in the second when I went in the second half, and they blew Cork away, to be fair. Waterford have looked more impressive this year, though. The likes of Laura McGregor and Katie Ann Hogan and these sorts of players have really, really stood up. Now, one of the Murrays, he's gone down to AFLW. That's a big blow to Waterford. I'm not sure, is it Kate or Emma, one of the two. But yeah, she's gone down to AFLW. That's a huge loss for Waterford. Obviously, the likes of Brie McMahon performed well, Chloe Fennell as well. And Waterford have probably been more impressive than Kerry in this Munster campaign. But again, it's a sort of similar situation as the hurling with Dublin and Kilkenny. You'd expect Kerry to kind of rock up and produce a big performance and get over the line. It's a tough one to call. I'm going to stick at the Waterford. I'm going to go for Waterford to win this game, slightly so. But I don't think Kerry will make it easy. Like, if Siobhan O'Shea plays well, Danielle O'Leary, if she plays in this game as well, will make it hard for Waterford in this. But I feel like the Dacians should get over the line and win the Munster title.
What would you be thinking about this one, Liam? Like, I know you've been very praiseful of Waterford so far this season, and I think both of ourselves maybe backed them to win the All-Ireland, or maybe that was Camogie, maybe it was both, I can't remember. But obviously, yeah, like Waterford have been brilliant so far this season, and this feels like a massive opportunity for them to take a huge step in terms of their development.
Yeah, look, it's obviously a shame to hear about whichever the Murrays it is that is heading over to Australia. Obviously an absolutely incredible opportunity, and you can't deny them that. There's no question about it. But I've been singing the Waterford praise all season, and I think it's been justifiable so far. They've been on a fantastic journey. They got a great win in the semi-final against Tipperary. I say that was kind of more of a factor of just get the game done, get the game won, even though Tipperary are a decent side themselves, and just get out of there with the victory. And look, it is going to be a very, very tough task against a very, very good Kerry team. There's no doubt about it. And even though, like, it is at a neutral ground, so if it was in Kerry, I know they won their championship game there recently, but if it was in Kerry, I'd absolutely be saying Waterford will win this game. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I'm still going to back Waterford to win this game, though. I think Waterford are a team that are very much high up on the trajectory at the moment. I I think they're going to go really, really far this season. I think they have a really, really good panel of players behind them, a really good squad. Like you said, the likes of Laura McGuigar's, Kellyanne Hogan's, etc. Eve Power, you know, these types of players. Chloe Fennell is a huge, huge player for them as well. So I'm actually going to go with Waterford to win this game. I think Kerry are going to put up a good fight. I think it's going to be a very, very close encounter. I think it's going to go right down to the wire. Could even be a game that could potentially go to extra time as well. Like I would not be shocked by that at all. But I'm going to go with Waterford to win the Munster title, and I think this could kickstart Waterford into a really, really positive season ahead.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think they will have enough. I think off of the basis of what we've seen so far, I think Kerry have looked like a side that has been in slight decline over the last couple of seasons. So, yeah, I'm going to back Waterford to go and do the job as well. You do have Armagh versus Tyrone. Another interesting one this as well. I mean, Tyrone have looked very, very good so far in the Ulster Championship. And they've obviously had a fairly solid enough league campaign as well. So, Matthew, going back to yourself here, I mean, what are we predicting here?
Tyrone beating Armagh could be a big moment for them, to be fair. Like they do have some very good players, the Saoirse Gormleys and Niamh O'Neill's and all them. Like they do have some talented players, but I think Armagh would actually be glad that they've got a bit of competition in Ulster, because it's only been themselves and Donegal over the last few seasons. Okay, Amy Mackin's back, Blothy Mackin is playing reasonably well as well. And you have other players like Laura McConville at centre back and these sorts of players. Like Armagh seem to be going well enough, but that loss against Tyrone might have taken the wind out of their sails a small bit. No, but I think I'm going to go for Tyrone. I'm going to go for the shock. I think Tyrone will beat Armagh this weekend. Armagh have won a lot of Ulster titles. Would the hunger be there this year? Probably not. The hunger will definitely be there from a Tyrone perspective. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Tyrone to win the game.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go for it as well. I think I can sense a surprise, sense a shock and everything else, given the form of Tyrone. Armagh are very hit-miss as well. They have been over the last couple of seasons, so I can see a scenario where Armagh go and do it. And looking at the comments here, Ryan says Tyrone by 3. Peter says Tyrone by 2. Liam, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I would have probably said Armagh before you started speaking, but the more I think about it now, like kind of what you both have kind of said, I kind of echo it. Armagh are very much hot and cold, and Tyrone are a team like they're on the rise. There's no doubt about it. They won the All-Ireland last year, and well, the Intermediate All-Ireland, but they deservedly won that. They've been a team that have been moving very steadily along the last while. Obviously, got the win the last day, albeit it's not a game that mattered in the end. If anything, I don't know why they played the game the last day. They may as well just call that the final as well, and just let them have that instead of playing them, twice in a row. To be honest with you, I don't know if that made much sense or not. But regardless, Tyrone are in a really, really good place at the moment. I think Maeve Maxwell's in great form. She got a goal the last day. Eva Horisk as well. They've some really, really good players across their team. So, yeah, obviously Saoirse Gormley as well is one of the best players in the country as well, on form when she gets on going. So, yeah, I'm actually going to back Tyrone. Why not? I'll make it a 3 in a row, and I'm going to back Tyrone to win the game by, I'll say the same margin as the last day, 5 points.
There we go. And moving across to the Camogie Championship this weekend, we have Clare versus Dublin. And we do also have Kilkenny versus Limerick. And in terms of my predictions for this, I'll go with wins for both Clare and Kilkenny to both get victories there. Obviously, Kilkenny had a big upset versus Wexford, but I think they will bounce back and get the victory. Clare have beaten us a couple of times in the league already this year. So as much as I'd love to back them, I think they may just beat us this weekend. Any of you lads have any disagreements on that?
I really want to say Limerick to beat Kilkenny, but I don't think it will happen away from home. No, I think Kilkenny will want to win this group. Yeah, I'm going to go for Kilkenny to win that, and yeah, I think Clare will win.
Yeah,
I think Clare and Dublin will be a close game. Like Dublin put up a good fight in the Leinster final against Wexford, but yeah, I agree. Clare, I think, are maybe just a slightly bit ahead of Dublin at the moment, so I'll back Clare to win by maybe 2 points.
Yeah, we do have some games in the All-Ireland Intermediate Camogie Championship this weekend. Looking at it in Group 1, we've got Kerry versus Down and Derry versus Antrim. And then in Group 2, we've got Meath versus Westmeath and Laois versus Carlow. So it should be interesting to see what happens there. In the Junior Camogie Championship, we do have some interesting games here as well. We've got Mayo versus Louth, and we do also have Monaghan versus Donegal. And there is also some games in the Premier Camogie Championship as well. We've got Roscommon versus Tyrone, Wicklow versus Cavan, Armagh versus Kildare. Matthew, I'll go to you on this. Any thoughts on any of those games or anything to kind of keep an eye on across both of those championships this weekend?
To be fair, the Premier Junior, he wouldn't know much about it. Like Armagh will win their game. I think they've looked pretty good, including that final against Laois last year. In terms of the intermediate, I think Kerry to get over the line against Down, but Down will make it tough for them. Meath against Westmeath, I'm going to go for Westmeath to win that game. Derry and Antrim, like, to be fair, like, I know Offaly did get the promotion in the end, Liam, but I think Antrim were pretty close as well. And you look at them in Division 1A. Yeah, absolutely. They have some fantastic players in Roisin McCormack, Maeve Kelly, all them. And to be fair, they probably should be a senior team, and they will show that this weekend against Derry. And Laois against Carlow. I'm going to go for Laois. I know they won the Premier Junior last year, but I think Laois will get over the line there.
There we go. So that wraps up the Camogie Championship action. We'll move across now to the big ball and the start of the All-Ireland Football Championship this weekend. Obviously, new structure and everything else that goes with it. So it should be very interesting. And what better way to start with Kerry versus Donegal? You knew when the draw was made that these two were going to end up playing each other. As Liam said on one of the shows, it's a bit like when Real Madrid and Man City are in the Champions League draw. You just know they're going to play each other. Whether it's by design, I'm not sure. But of course, it just had to happen that it was going to be these two. And going back to yourself, Liam, for this one, first of all, I mean, doesn't get much bigger than this. And obviously, there is a lot of talking points going into this. Kerry coming in with some injuries. I've seen actually they announced their team, and Paddy Clifford is on the bench from what I've heard. So that should be very, very interesting indeed. And yeah, Kerry are obviously going in with a couple of injuries and everything else, as we know. Donegal, on the other hand side, like, feel like so much has happened even since Donegal last played versus Down. It's almost a month ago since that defeat. And obviously they'll be coming into this game fresher. They'll have had a lot of time off, a lot of preparation. They'll have known for a while that they would have been playing Kerry, whereas Kerry would have had to focus on a Munster final. So what are we expecting from this one?
Yeah, Mark McHugh made the point before the Leinster Final, saying he wasn't a fan of the draw being made before the provincial finals because it kind of took away from it. It felt like a bit of a distraction, albeit for him, it made no difference. He was putting everything in to win the Leinster title, and I mean, he did in the end, you know, and I kind of agree with him. I suppose they do need to get a bit of planning ahead, and they need to, you know, sort things out off the pitch and that kind of stuff. But he's kind of right to a degree. It's like Kerry could have easily gone into the Cork game last weekend. No, they wouldn't have, and they definitely wouldn't have thought about it. But you could go into, say, a game like last weekend against Cork and just think, we can rest players. We can rest players, and we can, you know, take the foot off the gas a small bit because we have Donegal coming up. Like, it does sort of put you into that sort of a bubble of thinking what game is more important. For me, the Munster final at that time was obviously more important than it always will be. It's a provincial final at the end of the day, a chance to win. Like, I'll put it this way, nobody in 5 years' time is going to remember, like, albeit I think this is going to be a classic, nobody's going to remember in 5 years' time, oh, remember when we bet Donegal in the first round of qualifiers? People are remembering we bet Cork in a Munster final because it's a trophy. It's a medal. Nobody's getting a medal this weekend. Do you know what I mean? Whereas they got a medal a couple of weeks ago. But onto the game itself, I think we're in for an absolute cracker this weekend. I think Kerry and Donegal is a beautiful rivalry that's developing at the moment. Obviously, we had the shenanigans that took place in the league final, like should Michael Murphy have been sent off. They got the 3 goals, which were 3 excellent goals as well in the second half. Kerry were well off the boil that day. Donegal were well up for it. Like, they were absolutely sensational in that game, particularly in the second half. They just kicked into another gear altogether. Kerry, though, showed the last day, even without some of their best players, that they are still a top-class side. And for me, probably still are the team to beat in the All-Ireland series this year. Whether they will be in the end or not, we'll just have to wait and see. But for me, I think with having home advantage as well, Kerry, for me, are a team that when they do have the crowd behind them, it makes a big difference as well. You saw Clifford last year after the Bet Cavan calling on supporters to come up to Croke Park and support them because they needed it. They turned up for a quarter-final, which they never do. They turned up for a semi-final, which a large majority of them don't do. And they smashed Armagh and they took care of business against Tyrone rather comprehensively. And then you saw what they did in the All-Ireland final. There's going to be a huge crowd this weekend for the game because it is against Donegal. There is a rivalry there now. And for me, even though Kerry have played more recently than Donegal, I think that for me is going to be the key. They have played more recently. And Donegal, they need to shake off the defeat against Down. There's no doubt about it. But maybe Down exploited a few frailties against Donegal that maybe some of us didn't know about. maybe they did. And look, like I said, there, Paulie Clifford being on the bench. I think if he's fit enough to be on the bench, I think he's going to start. I think they're just playing tactics at the moment and trying to mess with Jimmy Guinness and all that. But for me, like, it's the old cliche, but you don't stop David Clifford, you don't win the game. It's as simple as that for me. Like, even in Kerry's bad games last year, you think back to the Meath game, David Clifford was still the player that shined the most for Kerry, even in that defeat. And for me, again, they tried it last year it was right in front of me in Crow Park, man marking to the degree where if Clifford went to the toilet for a shite, Cole would have been in there with him. So, like, he genuinely would have been. I've never seen a man so laser focused on another human being during a match. It was absolutely insane. But Donegal have tried that tactic. It doesn't work. And I don't think any other tactic they're going to try this weekend is going to work either. I think Clifford is the man. He dragged them. He's the one who got Kerry going against Cork the last day. He's the one for me that made the major difference in the end, because he's a generational player at the end of the day. And I think he's going to be the man that's going to make the big difference this weekend. I could see him scoring, another 9, possibly 10 points here or something like that, coming up with a crucial goal, coming up with a big catch, laying it off to someone beside him. Donegal had a lot of frailties against Down. They'll want to recover. There's no doubt about it. For me, I think home advantage is a massive, massive thing. And I think that win against Cork will give Kerry a bit of a boost as well. So I'm going to go with Kerry to actually win this game by 6 points.
Yeah, definitely some interesting opinions here. Sean reckons Kerry will win the game 125 to 118. Ryan feels the same, but a little bit closer, 122 to 20 points. In recent years, Kerry have always started early championship round slow, only kicking into gear. The quarter-final stage lost to Meath last year, says Mikey here. Sean also says, and I think Donegal have fallen into the trap of peaking too early in the league, and I think the fitness tax is starting to catch up on them. Do you know what it is? Like, I think with the new structure now, like, it's nearly impossible to be completely flawless throughout the league and championship. Like, there's going to be blips, there's going to be ups and downs. Kerry had a big enough blip, obviously, in the league final versus Donegal. They did enough versus Cork, but I still don't think it was anywhere near the best version of Kerry. What would you be thinking going into this one, Matthew, as the lads were even saying in the comments? Like, no, like, Kerry are obviously missing a lot of players going into this. No Sean O'Shea, Paulie Clifford on the bench, Joe Connor on the bench, no Tom O'Sullivan, I believe, as well. So, like, this is a huge, huge opportunity for Donegal to get a big win versus Kerry in the championship. Something they haven't done in the championship, I think. I don't know when it was. It's definitely been a long time anyway.
Yeah, like, the thing is, and I was at this game, Cork and Kerry, and it's kind of different watching it from the TV and watch it, obviously, in the press box or even wherever you are for Fitzgerald Stadium that day. I didn't think Kerry were that brilliant, to be honest with you, in that game in Fitzgerald Stadium. It was just, from Cork's perspective, we had a horrendous second half. And we kind of allowed them back into the game. We didn't run it. Like, the thing is, Cork kind of went into clusters in terms of running into blind alleys and that play right into Kerry's hands, or kicking it right into the defensive D, and Kerry were cleaning it up. Cora Staunton and Peter Canavan brought this up, saying it was expert defending. But the thing is, Cork didn't run at Kerry. You look at Donegal in the league final, what they did, they exploited the weakness in Kerry, they ran at them. I think if you run at this Kerry team, they are afraid of the backline. Whoever they have back there, whether it be Jason Foley, whether it be Ty Morley, I think they're very, very afraid. And Donegal are a sort of team that will realise that. I think the down result, I genuinely think Donegal just got caught in the hop. Donegal were kind of going into the game expecting to win it, like everybody else, to be fair. And Down caught them. I don't think they'll be caught similarly in this game. And a lot of people might say that Kerry are invincible or indestructible in Killarney. Just 3 years ago, Mayo went down there and beat them. And I was at that game as well, and Mayo were the much better team that game. So it can happen. I do think Donegal have the capabilities to go on and beat Kerry. There's rumours, I haven't read the team in detail yet, but apparently, according to the comments there, Joe Connor's on the bench. I think if he's fit enough for the bench, similar to Paulie Clifford, what Liam was saying, I think Joe Connor starts as well. I think you can't just leave a talented player like that on the bench and not play him, especially in a big game like this against Donegal. it's like, I think this is very tight with the call. And as well as that, there could be an element. I know it's the thing is in round one, the carrot is if you win this game, you're one win away from Croke Park in an All-Ireland quarterfinal. And it's a less scenic route, let's put it that way, in going into the big knockout games. So it is a huge game. It's a massive game. Okay, I think if Donegal's main players played, the likes of Michael Murphy, I don't know what the situation is fitness-wise with Michael Langan. Is he fit enough to play this game? I think Hugh McFadden could have a real bearing on it, Paddy Morgan as well. They won't make the same mistakes with Clifford as they did in the All-Ireland final last year. I do think they shackled Clifford and the rest of the Kerry forwards very, very well in the league final. Kerry didn't offer much of a threat at that league final either. They actually put McColgan on Clifford in the league final. I was talking to John Hayes from Southern Star, and he was making that point as well about McColgan going on Clifford. It was actually a benefit to Donegal. And I think they'll do that again. They'll put Quaylen McColgan on him. I do think Donegal genuinely could go down to Kerry and blood in their nose to the extent where I think Donegal could actually beat them. I think Donegal will win the game. I think they'll win it by 3 points. It might be a shot prediction, but I think Donegal will be a lot more street smart than Cork were in Killarney a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I actually think it'll be Donegal by 5. I think Donegal will win the game. Not like 5 points, obviously, in today's game isn't that comfortable with 2 pointers and everything else. But like even looking at like Kerry's team as well here, like Paul Gainey isn't even named in the panel. Like there's no Graham O'Sullivan as well, no Tom O'Sullivan. Like they're missing a lot of big players. And I do agree. I think Donegal will have had a lot of time to prepare for this game, as Mikey says here. Jimmy has been preparing for this game since the day after the Down match. Could easily see Donegal winning. And I know some people are saying, oh well, you know, it's a long distance to travel down. I know hotels and everything else in Kerry are quite expensive, but absolutely Donegal will be staying there overnight. There's no way to be making that journey down in the morning and everything else. I don't think this is like a league game or anything like that where, you know, the travel gets to you. I think Donegal will be fully prepared for this Kerry game, and I wouldn't have even been surprised if they've been staying in that part of the country for a couple of days in preparation for this, in my opinion, because that's just how Jim McGuinness and Donegal roll at the best of times. Sean says, I predict the Kerry win despite their injuries. The weather is due to be quite hot, which I think will benefit Kerry, given Donegal are due to make the long journey. So, Liam, there is quite a split in the comments and opinions and everything else. What way are you going?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Kerry to win by 6 points. Donegal have been preparing a long time, and I do agree with Matthew. Kerry are not unbeatable. Like they are beatable, they are beatable. Sorry, I'm mixing it up here. Jesus, we haven't even reached an hour and 15 yet. Christ. They are beatable in Kerry. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think it's happening this weekend. I just think Kerry are a team, like you said, they start the championship kind of slowly, and then they kind of nurture their way into it. And I think it's going to be the same this weekend. I think this could be the game that sort of kickstarts their season massively. And like I said, Kerry don't have, say, their strongest team out. There's no doubt about it. But I still just, like, I shouldn't be glazing them this much, but I just don't see. And like you said there, Clifford wasn't even great in the league final, but I don't see that happening again. I think Clifford just performs in every single game he goes out there. And I don't see, and I actually didn't even realize Joe O'Connor as well, because I haven't seen the team yet. But if Joe O'Connor's on the bench, he's going to start. Let's be honest. There's no way that he's going to be left on the bench for a game like this, especially with the way he dominated the All-Ireland final last year with the kickouts and everything like that. And arguably, you take Clifford out of it, would have been Footballer of the Year last year. I think him and Paddy are going to be in from the start, and I'm going to go with Kerry to win this game. Like you said, 6 points in this day and age in football is absolutely nothing, considering goals were 3 points, 2 pointers, etc. But I still just think Kerry have a bit of a foothold on Donegal in terms of the championship. And yeah, I'm going to go with them to kickstart their All-Ireland series with a 6 point win.
Yeah, Mikey says, even if Kerry lose, I'd expect them to bounce back and get to a final. Brendan says, let's be real, lads, here. I think this game and maybe the first round in general as a loss isn't necessarily the worst thing. Yeah, like it's a hard one, really. Like obviously with the structure as well, like you could be drawn away. Obviously you'd be going into the losers rounds. You'd be playing other teams who've lost. So you would expect Kerry to progress beyond that round. Like if they lost 2 games on the bounce, it'd be a massive, massive surprise. You'd say the same for Donegal. I think we would expect both of these 2 sides to be in the All-Ireland quarterfinals, potentially even beyond that, if we are being honest and everything else that goes with it there. But yeah, like I do still think Kerry are going to win the All-Ireland even with this loss. Like I still think they do have enough firepower, and when they get the injuries back and everything else, I think they will be okay. But yeah, I'm going to back Donegal to win this one. Going to yourself, Matthew, for this one, Cork versus Meath in Páirc Uí Rinn. Obviously, we were speaking about Kerry and Donegal playing each other 3 times this year. Same with Cork versus Meath as well. This time around, though, it is 1 win for Cork, obviously in the league phase, and the other win for Meath was in the Division 2 final. So, yeah, it's I suppose it's similar in the sense that Meath have had a lot of time to prepare for this game and everything else, and obviously they will be making the journey down to Cork. But would you be confident enough in getting the victory on Saturday?
The confidence has started to ramp up after the minor result on Monday. And it might be just something small, but the atmosphere in Páirc Uí Rinn that night and the feeling of Cork winning that Munster final was absolutely massive for the whole county. Like I see people actually coming out of the gates that night, and they were saying, "I'm buzzing for Saturday now." After that night on Monday night, and like at the same time, it was on in Páirc Uí Rinn as well. It was a tight, compact atmosphere, and they drove our minors to win that game over Kerry. Will the same happen this weekend? It remains to be seen. Look, they're a very, very good side, and they do have Sean Rafferty back in this game. He didn't play in the game at Páirc Uí Rinn. Matthew Costello is back, according to Davy Rispin from We Are Meath. He's going to be back for this game. That's massive for them. They would have been absolutely shook after the Westmeath results. I don't think they'll feel as bad now, considering Westmeath have shown what a good team they are in that Leinster final. But it still would have felt like a missed opportunity for Meath in that game against Westmeath. And as for Cork, in that game against Kerry, that second half performance, and I think John Cleary mentioned that, a lot of people might talk about, I see one of the comments saying Jason Foley should have been man of the match or whatever in that game, and Kerry's defence was compact. The way they looked compact, but John Cleary was saying this in the press conference. He was absolutely bang on this. Cork are capable of much more than that in the second half. Much more. It wasn't good enough in that second half display. We didn't click fast enough. We only got a first score 19 minutes to the second half. We just weren't tuned in. And I think Cleary kind of noticed that as well. We were playing a lot too safe, in my opinion, in that game. We played right into Kerry's hands, and that ultimately ended in a loss for us. But at the same time, and this is the funny thing about this game in Kildare against Kerry. With 5.5 minutes to go, Cork were 2 points down. If Conor Corbett scores that 2-pointer, it's a level game. Like it's crazy to think in that day and age, as bad as we were, we nearly leveled it. Conor Corbett hit the post with that 2-point effort. We nearly leveled it and brought the extra time. Like it's crazy to think, and we were absolutely terrible in that second half. It's going to be interesting to see the team sheets, obviously, with Brian Hurley and Dara Sheedy being out for Cork. Obviously, Sherlock, I think, will have a better game in this game against Meath. I think Mark Cronin will definitely play to his strengths as well. Chris Oak is capable of big performance in this game. And as well as that, the likes of Daniel O'Mahony in the full back line, he's ready for a big game. Brian O'Driscoll was one of a few players that actually performed well in Killarney, and he should take that momentum into this game. The interesting thing from a Cork perspective is the goalkeeper. Who is John Cleary going to pick this week? Like, I think this is the most puzzling thing. Like, the 2 games in the championship, we picked Micheál Martin for the Tipperary and Limerick games, and I thought genuinely Micheál did okay. I think he did okay in the 2 games, kick-out wise and shot-stopping wise. He actually did all right. But then John brings in Patrick Doyle again for the game in Killarney. No, I'm not taking it away. Patrick Doyle actually didn't have a bad game in Killarney. I actually think he was quite good, in fact. But you don't want to, at this stage of the season, when it's round 1, round 2A coming up next, or round 2B, whatever it may be, the last thing you want to do is chop and change the goalkeeper midway through the championship. You can't keep doing this. You have to stick with one goalkeeper and let that be that. There are so many questions rather than answers from Cork, and that's not a good way to go into this game. But I'm confident we can win the game simply because of a factor, and that's Páirc Uí Rinn. Because we usually perform very, very well there. The crowd, as I said, there is absolutely compact. The players enjoy playing on that pitch. It's a fortress playing in that ground. And I think it's the ultimate right decision to play there rather than Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And I think they will beat me this weekend. It might be, look, I feel like Páirc Uí Rinn is that big of a factor that they can beat me this weekend in this game. And I think they'll win it by a point or two. But it's going to be close. Again, like it always is between Cork and Meath. Both sides are evenly matched. But I think the Páirc Uí Rinn factor might be a grain of rice to tip the scale in this game. And I think Cork will get over the line, but slightly so.
Yeah, Gavin says the Westmeath defeat was probably one of 4 of Robbie Brennan's bad Meath defeats. I think they'll bounce back against Cork like last year after the Leinster final. Yeah, I felt like probably like the first real significant blow maybe for Robbie Brennan and Meath. Like I know they lost the Leinster final last year, but you could understand a little bit with it being Robbie Brennan's first season, Louth having a bit more experience and everything else in terms of getting to Leinster finals. But it did feel like such a big setback at the time. I believe they are going into this game without Matthew Costello, so that's obviously going to be a big blow from a Meath perspective. I think they have a few players missing as well, but Meath have obviously had a good amount of time to prepare for this game. It was a big shock when they lost to Westmeath. They've probably been happy enough to see Westmeath go and actually win it because maybe it justified them losing a little bit more, and I'm sure they would have taken pleasure in seeing the Dubs get beat in Croke Park as well. But what would you be thinking for Meath in terms of preparation and in terms of what we can expect from them this weekend?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a real nail biter, to be honest with you. I think this is going to be a game that could go right down to the wire, a game that will certainly be in the melting pot come towards the last 4 or 5 minutes. Having no Costello, if that's true, then Jesus, like that's a massive, massive miss for them. Now, look, they still have a lot of really good players in their team, but they obviously would have been shook from that Westmeath defeat. They definitely underestimated them. There's no question about it, which you just simply can't do. And I know hindsight's a great thing, but even I thought at the time, I was like, I think I said Meath would win the game at the time, but I said they'd win by 4 points because Westmeath are absolutely no pushover. And it turned out in the end, they were anything but a pushover, and they've proven it since. But Meath, for me, going down to Páirc Uí Rinn, if the game was in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, I'd actually be back in Meath. But I think Matthew's right. The game being in Páirc Uí Rinn, there's going to be a big crowd there. The Cork football fans have really got behind their team this season, especially throughout the end of the league campaign. And there was a big crowd in Killarney, obviously, for the Munster final. Get a big crowd in through the doors in Páirc Uí Rinn this weekend again. Make it like Galatasaray or Fenerbahce. Just make it hell for the Meath team, the Meath players and everything like that. And it could be a really memorable weekend. Like you said, Sherlock will be better this weekend. Sherlock doesn't have to go maybe 1 or 2 games where he's sort of goes under the radar. I think he'll shine again this weekend. I think Cork have a lot of really good forwards in their team. I've been very impressed with them today. I saw them in Tullamore against us, the way they move the ball, the way they move into pockets, into spaces, their quick hand passing. I've been really impressed with all season. Meath, for me, are still a team that I think can have a good season, but I think they are going to stumble over this weekend. I think they're just going to leave themselves a little bit too exposed. I think Cork, with the home advantage, I think they're going to get the win this weekend. I'm going to go with Cork to win by 3 points.
Yeah, Peter does have an interesting comment here about Meath, a bit overhyped, lad. Sorry, I can't be cheering for the neighbours. Yeah, no, I do agree with you in terms of definitely cheering for them anyway. I agree with you there. Look, I think this is going to be now where we're going to find a lot out about Meath. Like, was last season just flash in the pan and everything else, a bit of a one-hit wonder? I've always kind of said that it probably isn't, given their promotion from Division 2 and given how good that they looked. But it does feel like over the next couple of weeks, we're going to find out a lot about the resolve of Meath, because if they do lose this weekend, then I think they could be in big trouble, because you do see, one of Kerry Donegal is obviously going to be in there. Like, it's not a given that Meath get out of this knockout series if they lose. But in saying that, I am going to back them to get the job done. Haven't seen a lot of them up close and everything else. And I know they do have injuries and everything else. They will have had a lot of time to prepare for this game. And I do think Cork looks so flat in that second half. And for me, from what I've seen of Cork, every time they faced a massive bit of adversity, they have crumbled a little bit, like especially in the Derry game as an example there. So yeah, I'm gonna back Meath to get over the line, but look, we will wait and see. Maybe Cork will prove us wrong once again. We do have Galway versus Kildare. It's fair to say, lads, this looks the most straightforward of the championship games. Like, I'd say we're all backing Galway. Like, Liam, I'll give it to you, but is there any way Kildare can do something here? Like, my only thing in saying about this game is that this year's championship has been mental. Like, Leitrim going close to beating Galway, Wicklow nearly beating Dublin. Like, there have been a lot of games where we've thought they're going to be one-sided, and it hasn't been that way. But can we see anything other than a Galway win?
Yeah, no, not for me. I don't see Kildare putting up a major fight, to be honest with you. I think Galway will win this game comfortably. I think what will stop Galway is Galway themselves, to be honest with you. Maybe they'll have a bit of a hangover from the Connacht final, because if we're going to be honest about it, they threw it away. They were in a really positive position, and they absolutely threw that game away against Roscommon. But they'll need a response here, surely. Like, I mean, Kildare have not been in the best shape themselves this season. Like, they lost to a Westmeath team that had no Luke Loughlin starting, didn't have John Heslin back, and Matthew Whitaker went off, I think, like 20 minutes in. Do you know what I mean? And they still couldn't beat them. And Westmeath were fully credited for their victory. They beat Laois. They were drawing at halftime. They were very, very poor in the league, to be honest with you. Yeah, Kildare for me just are not up to the races at the moment, to be honest with you. And I think this is probably one of the worst games they could have asked for, to be honest with you. Albeit maybe playing Galway at the right time, considering they might be a bit of a wounded animal, but at the same time, they could be using the fuel from losing the Connacht final. But then you look at it, you're thinking Shane Walsh is coming back into a bit of form. Damien Comer got a goal the last day. He's back in a bit of form as well. For me, I think Kildare might get a goal at the end to put a bit of gloss on it, but I've said on my TikTok, I've said Galway will win this game by 25 points to like a 116, but it'll be one of those ones where it's like a very comfortable 6-point win, not like Galway to get a couple of 2-pointers at the end. Yeah, I think Galway should win this game rather comfortably, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Peter saying here as well, Mayo hammered us as in Kildare by 20 points in a challenge game last week. Like, that's fairly grim. That's fairly grim if that is true. Considering me beat Mayo in a challenge game as well. DC is saying here, would any of the Cúilín Media boys leave the channel to go on Love Island? I don't know, Liam. I think you maybe could do this.
If my girlfriend's watching, turn it off right now.
or yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll throw us all on for the crack and see what happens.
Cúilín Island, Jesus, that'll be something. Love Island, Jesus, no, you couldn't actually pay me enough to go on that, to be honest with you. I don't watch it. No, Peter, I'm not going on. I'm not going on. No, I've never watched that SH1T. If Sean goes on it, then I might actually tune in just to see what he gets up to, especially after that application he put out, which I think was an absolutely brilliant video, to be honest with you. And look, if he wants to go on it, then honestly, lads, there is a small-minded problem in this country. And you know what? We sneer at people for going on it. Look at Greg O'Shea. Look at Maura Higgins. They're millionaire. Well, I don't know if Greg is, but Maura Higgins is a millionaire now. You know what I mean? It launched Tommy Fury's career. Do you know what I mean? Like, if Sean goes on it, makes a bit of bob for himself, gets brand deals or whatever, honestly, good luck to the chap. Honestly. Look, is it ideal for Porrick, Joyce and all that? No, absolutely not. Are they losing a really good footballer at the moment? Yes, definitely. But you know what? I think, Shawnee, go for it. Have a bit of a crack. Have a bit of a laugh. Scare people while they're asleep. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But no, for me, absolutely not. I'd never go on it. You could offer me millions and I just wouldn't go on it. Just my dignity wouldn't allow it. So
yeah, I think same here. Yeah, like even to watch it, I think it's probably hard enough for myself, to be honest. But I do agree, for the record as well, like with Sean, like I think, look, each person to their own. Like, I've seen a lot of people criticizing them and everything else, and it's like, you know what, like, fair play. You know, if you want to go on it, absolutely. Who knows what opportunities could come from it? So, you know, so fair play. Getting back to more important matters though, on the pitch, Roscommon versus Tyrone. I suppose the Rossies, plenty of celebrating after winning the Connacht Championship and everything else. But this is like most vintage Tyrone I've ever seen go to Roscommon. Everyone betting against them, and they go there having not played in almost 2 months, which is mental in itself. Like, Matthew, what would you be thinking here? Like, we have seen this with Roscommon in the past, where they win Connacht or they do really well in Connacht and then go into the All-Ireland series and sort of just flatter to deceive. Now, I've kind of said the opinion all year that this Roscommon team looks like they've a bit more metal, a little bit more resolve, but what would you be thinking going into this?
Just on Sean, I absolutely agree with him, simply because I'd rather the scenic Ibiza rather than Salthill. I'll put it that way. But, I don't think that's a competition. But this game, look, this is going to be the one weekend where I actually back Roscommon, but I'm afraid they'll lose. Like, I think, look, this is the sort of game. But the thing is, I always back against Roscommon and then they win. Win, or they actually, like, either, Aaron, you're absolutely correct, or there's going to be a blip in the road for Roscommon. And I hope it's not this weekend. But Tyrone turned the corner against Armagh. In the game previous to that against Cork, they looked very, very flat in Omagh. So all the signs are pointing towards Roscommon to win this game. They're home in the Hyde. I'm going to back Roscommon because of their quality that they have, and they've won the Connacht Championship. But at the same time, I won't be shocked or surprised if they lose this game, because it would be almost like what Jose Mourinho would say, football heritage, if Roscommon do lose this game, because they always seem to do it. They hit a high point, win a Connacht Championship, win a big game in Connacht, win a big league game, and then the balloon bursts once they face someone in an All-Ireland series or something like that. So what I'm saying, I wouldn't be shocked if Roscommon lose the game, but I'm going to back them to win for once this weekend, because I think they do have the quality to get over the line.
Yeah, like like you feel like there probably is a blip at some point from Roscommon, and I don't know nearly if it's nearly better to lose now so you can readjust it and everything else. But at the same time, you do want to keep the momentum going. Gavin says, I liked how after the Connacht final, Tyrone was mentioned a lot, which might be different, along with how comfortable we stayed up in Division 1 and won Connacht, which we were never done in the same year. This is the worst Tyrone team of all time. Like Clare in 2022, we're higher in Division 2 than them. We have to beat them. Yeah, look, it's like the thing is with Tyrone though, like I don't know necessarily if I'd say it's the worst Tyrone team of all time. Like it's just performance-wise, it's been very poor. But there is quality footballers in the team. And like you look at the underage and everything else, there is players there, but for whatever reason, it hasn't clicked. But you saw glimpses of it against Armagh in terms of Con Kilpatrick and a few others as well. Darren McCurry, like some of the big dogs kind of really turning up, and even with players like Owen McElhone as well. So Liam, what are you thinking here? Like could Tyrone, like it's a weird one. It does sound a bit weird saying that Tyrone could cause the upset against Roscommon, because so often it was the other way around. But I suppose that's just the way it's kind of flipped at the moment.
Yeah, look, it would be so typical of Roscommon to go and lose this game and Tyrone to turn up and, get the win here. But for me, like, again, it's kind of funny. Sometimes you do wonder, is it better to maybe have a bit of a rest or to continuously playing games? I think in this case, Roscommon have been going the last while. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They had a big game against Mayo. It was New York that they bet, wasn't it? It wasn't New York or London they bet. I can't remember somehow. I think it was New York, wasn't it? It was New York, yeah. They bet Galway. They had such a tight game against Galway, fought their way back. The momentum that'll be in that team at the moment, the energy that'll be in that team, the love for that team, the supporters will be out in their droves. Tyrone, like you said, have not played a game since, was it April 12th? Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like, that is a long, long time to be sitting around. Obviously, they'd have gotten challenge matches here and there. I'm sure they would have. But for me, that's a very long time to go without playing a game of football. So I think that's going to hinder them a small bit this weekend. And I could sound very silly saying that. It could have been a great time for them to get, a couple of players back, try out a couple of new tactics, see what's new and everything like that. But for me, I just think the Hennigan brothers, you look at Murtagh, Dylan Rowan, Enda Smith, like I just think this Roscommon forward line, it's been in really good form so far this season, and I think that's going to continue again this weekend. Look, Tyrone were unlucky, probably not to beat Armagh. There's no doubt about it. It was a game that went to extra time at the end of the day. But for me, Roscommon are just riding a crest of a wave at the moment, and I don't see that stopping this time around. I think if there ever is going to be a bit of a shift in mentality in Roscommon and a shift in, bringing that momentum from winning a Connacht Championship into, the All-Ireland series, it has to be this season. And for me, Tyrone not had a major proper game in a month and a half. I think that's not going to stand to them at all, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go with Roscommon to win this game by 4 points. And I think it will be a close enough affair. I think Tyrone, like you said, do have the players capable of putting up a good fight. But for me, I think Roscommon are going to do it again. I think they're going to get a burst of energy towards the end, much like the Galway game. And yeah, I think they're going to overturn the red hand.
Yeah, James says Roscommon by 4. And Gavin says Tyrone probably haven't great challenge matches because everyone was probably still in the provincials. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they wouldn't have been able to get too many, maybe just within themselves in terms of A versus B games or something like that. I do think they played Meath in the challenge game from what I heard. Now, I don't know what the game, what score that was, but yeah, Paul was saying here Roscommon might get a hiding. Yeah, appreciate the pun there, but yeah, I think we're all backing Roscommon to win. I'm going to go for the Rossies as well to get over the line. Yeah, I think it would be most vintage thing ever for Tyrone to do it. But I think Roscommon, with the momentum that they're carrying into this game, I think they will have enough to go and win the game. Moving across to the Táilteann Cup and the winners round. Liam, we'll go to you for this one. Offaly versus Down. I suppose, look, it's probably a brilliant test. You're playing, in my opinion, the best team in the competition in Down at home. You know, momentum has shifted a little bit in terms of after winning the game versus I can't even remember now, or versus Clare. So I mean, there's momentum now within Offaly.
I don't blame you for forgetting that's the only win we've had this season of football. But yeah, look, it's a game that I'm a lot more optimistic about now than I would have been a couple of weeks ago, just given the fact that we did beat Clare, was a huge monkey off our backs, going away to Ennis as well and winning, which, look, I'll admit I didn't expect. I met the players after the match and everything like that that night, and sure, look, they were all in great form. I can't remember if any of them said to me, "Oh, you predict us to lose." I can't remember. But they're a great bunch of lads. I know them all personally. They're a great bunch of lads, to be fair. And look, I know how hard they are trying to win games for Offaly and everything like that. But I think for Down, it could be similar to, say, last weekend against Leitrim. I think they will beat us. I think they are the better side right now, to be honest, and a team that probably shouldn't be in the Táilteann Cup, to be honest. But it could be a case again of just our Down just kind of going through emotions here. Now, they could turn up and they could absolutely hockey us out the gate. Murdoch and Havering could just have a field day with our back line. They could decide, screw this, we're going to put out a bit of a statement here in Tullamore. But at the same time, they could be just going through the motions being in this tournament after the hiding they got against Armagh. So it is a funny one. And look, I think our test will be a bit up, especially after the way we performed against Clare and getting the victory there. But I do think Down will just have enough to get over the line here. I think it'll be close enough game. But I am going to go with Down to win it in the end. Look, I think if our lads put in a good performance, I'll genuinely be happy, to be honest, because this was this was the toughest test we could have gotten. The only other way we could have gotten a tougher one was if we were away to Down, to be honest with you. But yeah, I am going to go Down to win this game. But I think our lads will put up a decent enough fight, which I think will be beneficial going into the next round of games after that.
Yeah, we've got London versus Laois, Matthew. Opportunity for London to, be potentially one more win away from playing Croke Park football, which would be quite the story. Now, obviously, it will be very difficult. Laois, very good side, obviously, themselves. So a bit of a difficult draw, maybe from a London perspective. But what are you thinking in regards to this?
Main thoughts in regard to this game: why isn't this a double header with the Joe McDonagh Cup game? London against Laois, rise up. Why?
Again, it's nearly like they purposely try and avoid it. It's weird.
But you could talk about, you have to play games at the same, which is correct. You can't do match fixing regarding what happened in the 1982 World Cup. That kind of put that under the rug. But here's a suggestion. Why don't you have London and Laois in the Joe McDonagh at 1 o'clock, what it was, and have this game on at 3 on Sunday?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. I really don't. But anyway, that's double headers, and that's the enigma of those. I do think Laois will get over the line. As mad as I think the thought is that London could get to Croke Park after with one win away or whatever it is. Laois look very, very good. Like the score they put up on Offaly in that Leinster preliminary round was absolutely brilliant. Against Kildare, they really pushed them as well, and they seem more of a gel team with Justin McNulty in charge. Laois. I think they'll get over the line against London. Won't be easy at times, but they will get over the line.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in regards to that. And Liam, Fermanagh versus Wexford, I mean, like, this is a hard one to call, to be fair, because Fermanagh obviously played brilliantly against Armagh a couple of weeks ago. Probably made hard work. Longford maybe and they had a very disappointing league campaign. But Wexford themselves were obviously brilliant in terms of getting promoted from Division 3. They were actually the last team to beat Westmeath on record as well. So there you go. But what are we thinking here? Like, it's a bit of it's a hard one to call this, to be honest. I could see extra time potentially here.
Yeah, it's a game that I think will be very tight. Like, Fermanagh were a team that obviously put up a big scoreline against Armagh in their Ulster quarterfinal, but at the same time, Armagh had the game won at halftime. So how much can you really read into that? Obviously, look, they got back on track last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I should say, which was obviously good for them. No doubt about it. And look, they needed a victory because it's been a very, very tough campaign for Fermanagh. And I predicted Longford to win that day as well. So it was a major boost to them to get the victory. But for me, Wexford are a better side than Longford. And I think Wexford are coming into this game off really good form. Like, the scoreline they put past Limerick, 2-19. You know, they were really, really solid that night. I think Ben Brosnan could be in for a really, really massive game once again, as we've become accustomed to. Michael Kinsella got the goal the last day. You know, Cathal Keogh is a really, really good player as well. Mark Rossiter as well. Like, Sean Nolan as well. I think Wexford just have too much quality across the pitch, to be honest with you. I think they are a team that are going to go far in the Táilteann Cup this season. And I'm going to back them to beat Fermanagh this weekend. I'm going to go with Wexford to win this game by 7 points.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go for Fermanagh, to be honest, to win the game. I think having the home advantage in Brewster Park will be enough there. Antrim versus Tipperary. Interesting one this. Like, Tipperary obviously with a huge win versus in the last time out versus Sligo, like, and that was certainly a result that surprised a lot of people. Antrim, I think, as I've said in previous videos and everything else, have done quite well since that kind of early blip that they had in the league. I'd be backing Antrim to come through this. Would any of you lads be going for Tipperary?
I'll go Tip.
Tip by 1.
Yeah.
There we go. So I got outnumbered there. Anyway, we'll move on. Wicklow versus Limerick. Matthew, we'll go to you for this.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to back the Munster County here. It's just that Wicklow, they perform well against Dublin. They perform well in other games as well. Unlucky enough to lose to a very good Laois team in round 1 as well. And they're at home in Aughrim, which is a fortress. And I think that'll be enough to get over the line. Limerick haven't clicked this year, and I think Wicklow will end their season.
Yeah, I agree as well. There just seems to be all not right with Limerick and everything else, which is a shame after getting to the Táilteann Cup final last season. Clare versus Longford, Liam. I mean, Clare would be favourites here, but Longford obviously promoted from Division 4 this year, in the same division next year. Could Longford cause a bit of a surprise, or could Clare do it?
I think Longford will certainly put up a performance, and especially after the last day that Clare produced against us, I think they're going to need to put in a performance, to be honest with you. Like, they can't afford to perform the way they did the last day, and especially with the amount of wides that they kicked and shots that they kicked short as well. Look, I don't think it's going to be plain sailing for them, but I think Clare should realistically win this game with having home advantage, and I just think they need a major response after the last day. And unfortunately for Longford, it's been a good season for them in my opinion, but I think obviously you take away the Westmeath defeat in round 1 of the Leinster Championship, I think their season's coming to an end this weekend, unfortunately for them. I think Clare should respond after the defeat against Offaly.
Yeah, and then we have Leitrim versus Carlow and Waterford versus Sligo. I mean, Leitrim versus Carlow is a very hard game to call, because especially when you see Carlow promote from Division 4, they actually haven't won a game since then. Leitrim obviously had it was kind of hard to judge them versus down, but obviously the performance before that against Galway was very, very impressive indeed. I have a sneaky feeling Leitrim Carlow is going to go to penalties, and I'm going to predict Carlow to win it. Going to go for a bit of a bold one there, but lads, Matthew, what would you be saying in relation to it? And obviously Waterford versus Sligo, like you'd imagine Sligo win that.
Yeah, I think Carlow will beat Leitrim in the end. Look, Leitrim performed well against Galway, but there's still question marks under Stephen Poacher and where this Leitrim team is going. Carlow just lost in a blaze of glory really against Antrim. Like, it was a goal-heavy game, and like they've had a good season up until then. So yeah, I think Carlow will win that one. Sligo are in terrible form, but surely they'll be Waterford. Like there's quite a gap. Like the Táilteann Cup, it could be evenly matched in some aspects, and then you have Waterford at the very bottom. Now, Waterford have done well in under 20 and they've done well in minor, so hopefully that will translate in senior in the next few years. Like the problem for Waterford is getting players to actually play for them. Like Evie Fitzgerald has said that problem over the past year from a Waterford perspective. And I think Sligo will win the game. Waterford need a lot of work to do in the off season to get them back to where they want to be. In fairness, and just with regards to Longford and Clare, you know what's coming here. I think Longford will beat Clare.
There we go. Well, Clare, it wouldn't be a show without Clare getting a dig in the back or something like that, wouldn't it? Liam, what do you think?
Yeah, for as bad as Sligo have been this season, I think Waterford they're nowhere near the level even of a Sligo at the moment, so they should win that. I'm going to go with Carlow to beat Leitrim as well. I think this will be a nervy enough affair. I think it's going to be close enough, but I think Carlow will just shade it by 3 points. But it's certainly not going to be a simple game for them. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Well, look, that's been an absolute mammoth of a show there, completed and everything else. We've ran through all 4 codes and predicted and previewed the games and everything else. So yeah, do let us know your thoughts, your opinions. Shout out to ATAC Sport as always for sponsoring the channel, and make sure to check them out when you get a chance. We'll be back on Sunday at 8 o'clock to review all the weekend's action, and without question, there will certainly be a lot to discuss. So yeah, for all you lads who tuned in, we'll speak to you all Sunday, and
instinct, baby.